Imagine, imagine, if you will, a sport that is effectively four-dimensional hockey.
Oh, yeah.
It is played inside this massive, transparent, enclosed dome, and it combines brutal physical athleticism, really complex magical influence, and controlled high-speed flight.
Right, because you aren't just worried about a player coming at you from the left or the right.
Exactly. You have to worry about them diving at you from, 30 feet above your head at highway speeds.
It is terrifying.
It really is. So, welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are taking you straight onto the flight ban of Manheim Academy's premier sport, which is Manaball.
And we have an absolute mountain of internal sources to guide us through this one today. I mean, we are going way beyond just the official rule books or the standard team strategy playbooks.
Yeah, the access we got for this is kind of unreal.
It is. We have access to the deeply personal psychological scouting profiles of the players, alongside these meticulously detailed game-by-game logs and statistics from their most recent 9-game season.
It's basically a treasure trove of tactical and personal data.
It really paints a wildly vivid picture.
It does. And our mission today is to completely deconstruct one specific team from those logs, the Golden Eagles.
Golden Eagles.
And I promise you, whether you are managing a complex corporate project, trying to navigate a highly competitive creative field, or just, trying to understand chaotic group dynamics, you are going to want to hear this.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we are looking at an absolute masterclass in how to use speed, sheer chaos, and calculated risk to completely dismantle rigid traditional systems.
Right, but to really grasp how the Golden Eagles break all the conventional rules of the game, you kind of have to understand the physical constraints of the game itself first.
Good point.
Manaball is played with 7 players per side, but the defining feature really is the arena. The dome is 210 feet long, but crucially, it is 30 feet high.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that 30 feet of vertical space is everything.
It is the whole game.
From the playbooks we reviewed, the dome is divided into 3 vertical layers. You've got the upper layer, the neutral plane right in the middle, and the lower layer. And the whole thing is governed by this concept called mana gravity.
Right, so mana gravity is essentially a magical stabilization field. It gently pulls the players and the levitating mana orb that they use to score toward that center neutral plane.
So it's always pulling you back to the middle.
Exactly. If you fly up into the upper layer near the ceiling, you naturally start drifting down. If you dive into the lower layer near the floor, you drift up. It forces the baseline action to the center while making vertical maneuvers this constant strategic battle against the environment itself.
Which sets the stage perfectly for how different teams approach that space. I mean, I was reading the league overviews, and it seems like most teams just try to control that environment safely.
Yeah, like the Azure Bears.
Right. The Azure Bears play this highly disciplined positional system hockey. They just lock down the neutral plane.
And the Verdant Deer, they sit back in the lower layer, absorb pressure patiently, and strike on the counterattack.
Exactly. But then I looked at the Golden Eagles playbook, and their core identity is literally just 3 words: overwhelm the opponent.
They have zero interest in patience. None. And you see that immediately in their base formation. Most teams run a balanced spread of forwards and defenders.
Right.
The Eagles run a 3-striker, 2-center offense.
Wait, leaving only one single defender back?
Just one.
In a sport where people are constantly diving at your goal from 30 feet in the air, that sounds less like a strategy and more like a competitive suicide mission.
It is wild on paper.
How does a coach even justify that? It's like a tech startup spending 95% of its budget on aggressive marketing and leaving 5% for IT security.
That is a great analogy. It is an all-out assault. And the justification is that they absolutely dominate the upper layer.
They just bypass the center entirely.
Pretty much. Their signature move is called the Eagle Dive. One of their centers launches a long, curved arc pass way up into the upper layer. Simultaneously, a striker uses their enchanted mana boots to climb into that airspace, collects the orb, and dives violently downward.
Uses the gravity.
Exactly. They use that mana gravity we talked about to accelerate into a brutal spike shot on the goal.
Okay, before we get into the players actually executing that, the sources constantly reference magic tiers, like a player being a B-tier pyromancer. I know the basics of magic in this world, but what does that actually mean on the ice? Are they literally throwing fireballs at the goalie?
Not quite, because direct magical attacks on players are heavy penalties.
Gotcha.
It's about environmental manipulation and propulsion. A pyromancer uses microbursts of heat to create thermal updrafts.
Oh, so they can counteract the mana gravity.
Right. It allows them to climb into the upper layer faster than anyone else. They are manipulating the thermal dynamics of the arena to gain a massive speed advantage.
That makes so much sense. So it's physical athleticism supercharged by thermodynamics.
What's fascinating here is that this isn't just a physical tactic, it is a deeply psychological one. The Eagles thrive in transition and chaos.
They want the game to be messy.
Exactly. Their entire philosophy proves that if you move fast enough, and if you are unpredictable enough, the opponent's carefully laid positional structure simply collapses. You cannot play disciplined, zones-based defense when the attack is coming at you from a free-falling striker moving at 30 miles an hour.
Let's look at the engine room driving this high-speed system, because the internal scouting profiles of these offensive stars are incredibly revealing. We have to start with Addie Lum.
The Muse.
Yes, known as the Muse. She is that B-tier pyromancer we just mentioned, playing striker. On the stat sheet, she is an absolute powerhouse, 13 goals and 20 points this season.
Incredible numbers.
But her off-field profile is fascinating. She apparently just drifts through the academy, drawing fantastical creatures in her sketchbook. Her leadership style is entirely based on warmth and emotional resonance.
Yeah, she leaves tiny illustrated notes in her teammates' lockers.
And organizes lantern-lit nature walks.
Right. But the psychological profile notes a really heavy burden she carries alongside all that warmth. Addie is secretly terrified that her brightness is conditional.
Wow.
The scouting report points out her deep-seated worry that people only love her for the joy and comfort she brings, and that if she were to ever ask them to sit with her sorrow, they would retreat.
So the lightness she displays on the field, that incredible aerial grace, it's genuine, but it's also kind of a defense mechanism.
Exactly.
She's hiding her heavier thoughts behind nonstop creativity because she's terrified of becoming a burden to the team.
Precisely, which creates a stunning contrast with her main counterpart in the neutral plane, center Jack Jeffrey, known as Alpha Jack.
Oh man, Jack's profile is intense.
He is an A-tier pyromancer, and an A-tier designation means his thermal control is so precise he can essentially create explosive bursts of speed from a complete standstill.
And he tallied a staggering 17 assists this season.
He is the kinetic momentum of the Golden Eagles. He trains before dawn, he trains after dusk. He is loud, dominant, and constantly driving the pace.
But I'm looking at his psychological evaluation, and it mirrors Addie's in a strange way.
It really does.
Jack's entire identity is welded tightly to his physical performance. He turns life into a constant physical challenge because rest feels dangerous to him. He feels that if the muscle fades or if the records fall, there will be nothing left of him for people to admire.
He is basically outrunning his own obsolescence.
Yeah.
And to tie those two massive personalities together, the Eagles rely on Mac Blackwood, the Blurred.
Right.
He's a B-tier electromancer. Now, electromancy Manaball is usually about nervous system enhancement, hyper-fast reaction times, and utilizing static cling for impossibly sharp turns. Mac racked up 15 points this season by being the ultimate synthesizer.
The notes on Mac are fantastic. He balances this effortless athletic ease with deep intellectual curiosity. He bridges the gap for a team that completely refuses to be put into neat boxes. But Mac isn't alone in rounding out this chaotic offense, right? We have to talk about Tyler Ward, the Daredevil, and Wesley Leclerc, the Speedster.
Oh, the notes on these two are wild.
Tyler traverses the academy rooftops like gravity is merely a suggestion. And Wesley is so small and fast, the profile says he registers on the arena sensors as just a displacement of air.
A displacement of air. The tactical advantage they provide is massive. Because Wesley is so small, traditional defenders constantly lose track of him in the lower layer.
And Tyler
uses her disregard for gravity to play in the blind spots of the upper layer. But psychologically, their need for validation is what fuels their speed. Both of them use sheer velocity to prove they belong in a world that might otherwise overlook them.
It is a collection of deeply talented, intensely driven individuals who are all using forward momentum to outrun their own internal doubts.
Beautifully put.
And when you put them all on the flight band together, they create a storm that is almost impossible to defend against, which is a perfect segue because it's easy to talk about the storm. But what about the poor souls who have to clean up the mess left behind?
The defense.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because someone actually has to play defense for a team that actively abandons defensive structure.
Remember that 3-2-1 formation.
Right. Enter Guardian Blake Anderson, the Trailblazer. Blake is an ecologics student. Now, from what I gather in the Academy curriculum notes, ecologics is the study of how ambient mana interacts with organic matter, right?
That's right. They understand the flow and currents of the dome's magical environment better than anyone. They can read how the mana orb will curve before it even leaves the striker's hand.
That is an insane advantage for a goalie.
And Blake's personal profile is phenomenal. They are non-binary, with this calm, future-facing energy. They don't just want a seat at the table, they intend to redesign the table entirely to ensure future equity in athletic standards.
But the physical reality of playing goalie for the Golden Eagles is staggering. I am looking at Blake's stats here, and my jaw is on the floor.
It's hard to believe.
How is it even physically possible to face this kind of volume? In just a 9-game season, Blake faced 248 shots.
Let's do the math on that. That is nearly 28 shots per game in a sport where every shot is coming at you with magical acceleration.
Yeah, that's just a barrage.
Because the Golden Eagles push 5 players forward and play at this breakneck pace, they surrender a staggering number of counterattacks. Blake is the ultimate, and often the only, safety net.
But they still made 211 saves.
Yes, finishing with an .850 save percentage.
They're essentially standing in front of a firing squad every single night because their team refuses to play safe.
It's true.
And we have to pour one out for the lone defender left stranded back there with Blake, Natalie Matthews, the Titan. I genuinely pity her role on this team.
It is a tough job. She is a C-tier defender, relying on minor shield magic and sheer physical positioning.
Her profile is a stark contrast to the rest of the team. She is introverted, precise, and completely composed. While the rest of the Eagles soar loudly, the scouting report notes that Natalie glides. She deeply understands that altitude does not require noise.
What a quote.
Right. She is the architectural foundation. It is the ultimate real-world workplace dynamic, isn't it?
Oh, completely.
You have the flashy creatives and the loud salespeople taking all the glory. And then you have the quiet, introverted operations manager staying late to make sure the whole company doesn't burn to the ground.
Natalie stays back, takes the heavy physical hits, and blocks the shots while everyone else chases the highlight reel.
It is a high-wire act of a team.
And you see that exact dynamic play out in the reality of their 9-game season narrative.
Let's look at the numbers.
They finished with 4 wins, 3 losses, and 2 overtime losses. That's 10 points total in the standings.
And the goal differential tells the whole story.
Exactly. They scored an impressive 33 goals, but they allowed 37. Literally every single game was a coin flip of chaos.
I want to break down what happens when that coin lands on the right side. The logs highlight Game 6 against the Crimson Tigers as their absolute peak.
A classic game.
The Tigers are the most dominant, aggressive team in the league. They play a swarming system and usually crush opponents physically, but this game turned into a relentless track meet. It ended up tied 4-4 going into sudden death overtime.
Yep.
Talk me through that final play, because the description on the logs is pure cinematic magic.
It really was the Golden Eagles executing their chaotic game plan to absolute perfection against the best team in the league. Jack Jeffrey intercepts a pass near center dome. He doesn't hesitate or look to set up a play. He instantly launches a thread pass into open airspace in the upper layer.
It looks like a wild throw to nobody.
Exactly. But Addie Lum is already accelerating. She uses her pyromancy to blast up into the arc, catches the orb at the apex, dives downward using the mana gravity, and strikes it mid-descent. It screams past the Tigers goalie for a 5-4 overtime upset.
Just a devastating collapse of the Tigers' structure in 3 seconds.
Unstoppable when it works.
But this extreme style has to backfire, right? You can't just fly by the seat of your pants every game and expect to win a championship. What happens when relentless speed meets an immovable object?
You get Game 8 and Game 15.
Oh boy.
In Game 8, they played the Verdant Deer, who specialize in those defensive traps in the lower layer. The Eagles fired 27 shots, constantly pushing the tempo, but the Deer's guardian, Carter Vobbs, was flawless.
He saved all 27 shots.
He did. The Deer just absorbed the Eagles' chaotic energy, waited for them to overextend, and burned them on the counterattack for a 3-0 shutout loss.
And it's the exact same story in Game 15 against the Azure Bears.
Exactly the same.
The Bears play that structured positional system. They debuted a new guardian, Minna. The Eagles threw 29 shots at her. Addie Lum, Mac Blackwood, Jack Jeffrey, they tried every trick, every dive, every thermal updraft. Minna saved all 29 shots for a perfect 1,000 save percentage.
And the Bears calmly executed their offensive cycles to win 3-0.
It has to be incredibly frustrating to watch a team with that much firepower just hit a brick wall.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals a fundamental truth about this kind of strategy. A highly chaotic, transition-based offense is incredibly susceptible to a hot guardian.
Because you rely entirely on overwhelming them.
Right. If the goalie doesn't blink, the chaos just exhausts the attacking team. They burn out. However, the Eagles' resilience is what makes them special. They don't abandon their identity when they hit a wall. They double down on it.
That is what I love about this team. Look at how they bounce back. In Game 14, a rematch against the Verdant Beer, the game went to overtime tied 4-4. Did the Eagles suddenly decide to play conservative defensive Manaball?
Not a chance.
No. They pushed the pace, forced a chaotic collision near the offensive zone, and Tyler Ward capitalized on a totally broken play to hammer home the winner.
And consider Game 9, their rematch against the Azure Bears. The Bears tried to slow the game down again, to trap them in that structured mud, but the Eagles forced a massive 6-4 shootout. And the game was sealed by who?
Natalie Matthews. The quiet defender steps up from the back line to blast an insurance goal from the neutral plane.
They won by forcing the structured teams to abandon their plans and play in the chaos with them.
So what does this all mean? If you are listening to this right now, why should you care about the tactical logs of a magical sports team?
Right.
It all comes back to how you approach your own challenges. It's the ultimate lesson against trying to be a jack of all trades. The core lesson of the Golden Eagles season is that you do not need a flawless, airtight system to succeed.
No, you don't.
The Eagles know they are flawed. They know leaving one defender back is a terrible idea on paper.
But by fully committing to their specific strength, speed, creativity, and aerial dominance, and actively accepting their inherent risks, they force the opponent to play their game.
It's a masterclass in the power of extreme specialization and total team-wide buy-in.
When the Azure Bears tried to outstructure them, the Eagles sped the game up so fast that structure simply didn't matter. They dictate the terms of engagement.
They prove that sometimes leaning entirely into what you do best, even if it leaves you incredibly exposed in other areas, is a far more viable strategy than trying to be perfectly balanced and mediocre at everything.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the stats, the magic, and the high-flying strategy of Manaball. We've looked at the arena, the intense tactical choices, and the massive highs and lows of the Golden Eagles season. But before we go, I want to turn it over to our expert for one last thought to leave you with.
This raises an important question, one that bridges everything we've talked about today. If you look closely at the data, you realize that the Golden Eagles' on-field strategy directly mirrors their psychological profiles.
Oh, for sure.
Think about Tyler Ward, who uses constant motion as armor because stillness invites questions she can't answer. Think about Jack Jeffrey, training relentlessly, running from the fear of fading away. Think about Addie Lum, hiding her heaviest thoughts behind non-stop, beautiful creativity.
Yeah.
The Golden Eagles' strategic reliance on relentless, chaotic speed isn't just a tactical choice to win Manaball games. It is a perfect physical manifestation of their internal states. They play fast, they push the tempo, and they completely abandon structure because they are all, in their own very specific ways, terrified of stopping. Wow. So I want you to ponder this the next time you find yourself moving incredibly fast through your own life, your own projects, or your own chaotic weeks. Are you running toward a goal, or are you just running away from the quiet?